kind introduction and for your exemplary leadership of the law school. I'm honored to be invited to give the law school commencement address. I'll return the favor by not going on too long. Having presided over more than 40 commencement ceremonies at Texas A&M and more recently here at William & Mary, I can attest to the value of brevity at a time like this. I'm reminded of the British nobleman, Lord Burkitt, who was known for being particularly long-winded. He once said, "I do not object to people looking at their watches when I am speaking, but I strongly object when they start shaking them to see if they're still working." I promise your smartphones will still have a charge when I'm done. To the law school class of 2015, congratulations. It's a great achievement. I'm told you broke the law school record for class pledges, as was described earlier. And as a former university president, I always appreciate alumni generosity. You completed a grueling curriculum that included, among other things, a substantial research and writing requirement. I know from experience this hurdle to graduation can be particularly onerous. Just over 40 years ago, I had just about finished my PhD dissertation, or so I thought. My advisor called me in and told me that the paper was just fine. It just wasn't long enough to be considered sufficiently scholarly. So I went back and padded the draft with another 100 pages and 20,000 words. During my first Senate confirmation to be Deputy CIA Director, I was told that several investigative reporters were at the Georgetown Library reading my dissertation, to which my response was, "It serves them right." I approached today's remarks with some trepidation, as I know it's somewhat unusual to have a non-attorney as graduation speaker at a law school. During my time in the Obama administration, it felt at times like I was the only non-lawyer in the cabinet. And at CIA, as you can imagine, a call from the General Counsel's office was never good news. As Secretary of Defense, I had something like 10,000 attorneys working for me. That's the equivalent of 2 Army brigades. The jury is still out, if you'll excuse the expression, over which group is more dangerous with the vote. Now, typically at this point in a commencement speech, I thank the parents for their support while also warning that the bank of mom and dad is probably still open. So best not to go out and buy the new speedboat just yet. Well, I don't see much need for such a warning with this group. You are, after all, William & Mary attorneys. Your graduates of not only one of the country's premier law schools, but an institution that has put special emphasis on generating practice-ready citizen lawyers, more able to hit the ground running in your first job. It's thus no surprise that applications to William & Mary are going up even while applications to other American law schools are declining sharply. We all know the legal education and professional training here are first rate. What makes attending William & Mary special, in my view, is the opportunity to be part of an institution rooted in the earliest history and fundamental governing principles of the United States. It is fitting that the college known as the alma mater of a nation not only established America's first law school, but also produced our first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. William & Mary and America's first law professor, George Wythe, explained that his charge was to form such characters as may be fit to succeed those who have been ornamental and useful in the nation's council, in the national councils of America. Wythe believed legal education should aim to produce leaders able to promote public prosperity. In recent history, my predecessors as chancellor have included not one, but 2 Supreme Court justices. The intersection of law, liberty, and history defines William & Mary experiences. Indeed, so much of what defines America first took root here in this corner of Virginia. Here is where the world's first representative assembly gathered, the institutional expression of the concept that people should have a say in how they were governed. And having that say brought with it certain obligations, a duty to participate, a duty to contribute, a duty to serve the greater good. It's impossible to be a student here and not feel the weight of that history. I certainly did as an undergraduate here more than 50 years ago. And I hope that you, as I did then, also feel the weight of responsibility as well. In your studies here, and in the political discourse more broadly, you and all of us hear a good deal about rights, statutory, constitutional, and otherwise, that come with being an American citizen. But we hear a good deal less about the duties and responsibilities that come with citizenship. To be sure, as has been noted earlier in this ceremony, there is no shortage of public-mindedness in this school. William & Mary's chapter of the Marshall-Brennan Constitutional Literacy Project pairs law schools with high school students to teach and learn the responsibilities of United States citizenship. William & Mary's 9 law clinics provide thousands of hours of volunteer legal work on behalf of underserved groups, including the elderly, children with special needs, victims of domestic violence, and wrongly convicted prisoners. As former Defense Secretary, I continue to be concerned about the well-being of the tens of thousands of military personnel injured or traumatized in Iraq and Afghanistan, most of them serving there on deployment orders I signed. So I'm especially proud that William & Mary is the home of the Fuller Law Clinic, which has become a nationally recognized model for how to deal with the challenges of too many American veterans. No doubt many of this class, whether your political persuasion leans toward the Federalist Society or the ACLU, will continue to devote unpaid time and effort to causes you believe in, whether through pro bono or volunteer work. But I hope you will take things one step further and consider devoting at least part of your professional life to full-time public service. I entered government at the height of the Vietnam War. No one is more familiar with the hassles, frustrations, and sacrifices of public service than I am. Being director of CIA lets you in for some interesting public commentary, such as the time that wanted posters showed up with my face on an East Coast University campus. I acquired one of those posters, and it is a treasured part of my collection. It's a reminder that a measure of skepticism and irreverence about government officials and organizations is always healthy, indeed necessary. Along with the constitutional checks and balances, a gimlet eye toward those in authority helps curb overweening power and overweening egos. And in Washington, D.C., there is certainly no lack of the latter. America's system of government, conceived in no small part by graduates of this institution, is by design slow and unwieldy. Our Constitution is designed to protect liberty, not promote efficiency. And frankly, the legal profession has certainly done its part to introduce layers of process, regulation, and other sources of delay, all of which can drive one to distraction when trying to get something done in the executive branch. At the same time, while irreverence informed by healthy skepticism is essential to democracy, cynicism about the people and institutions that govern and protect our country can be corrosive. Too often, those who choose to serve in government are dismissed as bureaucrats or worse. And in many cases, politicians run for office disparaging the very government they hope to lead. Justice O'Connor has spoken eloquently on the political and personal attacks leveled increasingly at members of the judiciary, putting their independence and, in some cases, their safety at risk. In the eyes of many successful private citizens, the burdens of public service have grown too onerous. In the legal profession, that can include being attacked for people that you may have represented or defended. Public life can seem too mean, too ugly, too risky, too dangerous, and too frustrating. But I have a different view, a view informed by my own experience working with 8 different presidents and leading countless dedicated professionals at CIA, the National Security Council, and the Department of Defense. I believe that public service remains a necessary and honorable calling, and contrary to the perceptions of many, a fulfilling and satisfying opportunity. I think of the thousands of U.S. military attorneys with professional educations that could earn them far greater financial reward elsewhere, who have deployed to war zones and put themselves at risk. And it is noteworthy the most dogged and successful legal advocates for detained terrorist suspects after 9/11 on matters ranging from interrogation practices to due process have not come from NGOs or white shoe law firms. They have come from the uniformed ranks of the Judge Advocate General's Corps, often at risk to their own careers and promotion prospects. I suspect that in an unguarded moment, most public servants, no matter however outwardly jaded, would acknowledge that they are, in their heart of hearts, romantics and idealists and optimists. We actually believe we can make a difference, that we can change the lives of others for the better, that we can make a positive difference in the life of our country and in the world. I'm reminded of a letter from Abigail Adams to her son, John Quincy Adams. She wrote him, "These are the times in which a genius would wish to live. It is not in the still calm of life or the repose of a Pacific station that great characters are formed. Great necessities call out great virtues." We live in a time of great necessities. As individuals, the burdens and responsibilities of citizenship in a democracy are permanent. And as a nation, we cannot escape the long-term burdens, responsibilities, and costs of global citizenship and global leadership. The implications for you and for your generation, I think, are best captured in the words of Abigail's husband. In a letter to another son, John Adams wrote, "Public business must always be done by somebody. It will be done by somebody or another. If wise men decline it, others will not. If honest men refuse it, others will not. Preparedness to serve, devotion to one's community and fellow citizens, caring beyond self, these are all fundamental to democracy. Our forebears who walked these grounds more than 2 centuries ago understood this when they risked their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. But it is a lesson that must be refreshed in every generation by the best and brightest young Americans. It is a lesson that must be refreshed by the wise and honest among you. Congratulations and Godspeed."